Right. Right. And that's where we come in and do a lot of the education to
Yep.
find out, do you already have health insurance, maybe through a spouse or
Right.
through the marketplace? What's your deductible and,
Yep.
and what's your risk on that? If
Right.
some people have a high deductible plan because they want to have a low monthly health
Right.
care expense, but they're leaving themselves exposed
Right.
to that high deductible. Earlier this year, I had a gallbladder surgery that came up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And I ended up spending 4 days in the hospital.
Yep.
And that's stuff that just comes up out of the blue that
Yeah.
I had no idea that was coming. I'm pretty
Right.
young, pretty healthy,
Yeah.
and that was a huge expense for me,
Right.
because I happened to do that to myself. I went with a high deductible health
Yeah.
plan with a low cost, and got caught off guard. And
You
it happens
know,
to
I'm
everybody.
a believer that sometimes things happen in your life so that you can like have a more passionate reason to go help
Exactly.
other people in those areas, right? So I just always like to try to find the positive in everything. So it happened for a reason. But
Right. But it just goes to show, I mean, even having been in insurance, knowing how everything works
yeah,
and understanding
well,
it.
you never think it's going to happen to you, right?
Right,
You
right.
know.
And I've got coverage for other things, and that was one thing that I was
Yep.
just, I didn't consider because
Yeah.
I wasn't expecting it, but
Right.
it came up out of the blue, and I paid for it.
Yep. Well, hey, lesson learned. You'll never make that mistake again, I bet. So,
Absolutely.
but no, that's good. So are those like some of the most common things? You just kind of rattled off a few things, and that was my next question. Was like, what are the most common things? I'm sure obviously you guys offer a ton of different stuff, but the most common things, kind of health insurance, life insurance, disability, and the
Yeah.
cancer.
So health and dental are the number one and number two most
Okay.
requested benefits in any company.
Yep.
Outside of that, our most popular products that we offer are short-term disability and accident coverage.
Okay.
So the short-term disability I often find is one of the most important policies to have, because if you're the breadwinner in your family, if your family really depends on your income to
Right.
pay the mortgage and put food on the table and keep the lights on,
Yeah.
and something like who knows what happens comes up out of the blue,
Right.
if you're not able to work for a couple weeks or a couple months, it could be devastating for
Yep.
your whole family. Something like short-term disability ensures that if something comes up like that, you're going to have the coverage and the support you need to make sure that your bills get paid and the
Right.
mortgage gets paid, and
Yep.
and your family can continue with their life. And then accident insurance is probably our next best selling product, just because accidents come
Right.
up out of the blue anytime, and especially for people with kids and people whose kids play sports. It's an excellent policy to have. It's
Okay.
just, it just happens to anybody, but
Right.
especially kids, it
Yep.
seems.
Nope. That's a good perspective for sure. So, no, it's good, and it's kind of good to kind of think through some of those things. And I think, the disability stuff sometimes one of those things like you're like, oh yeah, we'll never need it. It's fine, right? And I remember my wife was in the hospital for like about a little over a week. She had missed like 2 weeks worth of work last year. And like wasn't the end of the world. We're like, yeah, we'll get through it. It's all good. Like take your vacation. Kind of sucks. Wipe out vacation. And then all of a sudden
Right.
they were like, no, actually, like your short term disability kicked in. Like blah blah blah, and like basically paid for it. And we're like, oh, So thankfully we weren't even in a spot that like we were really struggling because of it. But it was just that nice little added thing of like, oh, sweet. Like we didn't really consider that was part of their benefit package at work. So that can be something that's very nice whenever if you ever do need it. Right.
Right.